Hello and welcome or welcome back. It is time for me to do my November reading wrap up. And I am really happy with how November went for me in terms of reading. So I read 9 books, which is a pretty average month for me actually this year. I think like 9 or 10 is around the average that I've had each month. And as you'll see, I didn't love every single book I read. But when I did love books, I just really enjoyed the process of reading. And actually getting back to that point where there are times where I am truly enjoying what I am reading was just so nice. And I just really loved the vibes that I got from it. So let's get going with everything that I read last month. So the first book that I read was A Break by Brianna Michaels, and this is the most recent book in the Next Level series. So I have been working my way through this series, a book a month, for the last few months, having picked up all the hard copies at Rare. This one is an MMF romance, so all the others have been MF, so that was a bit of a change. And these are all characters that we meet in the previous book. They are all very much standalone books, but I think this one did have quite a few ties to some things that had happened in the previous book, so I was glad that I was reading them in order. So in this one, we have got these 2 guys who are business colleagues and partners as well, and they have been together for a very long time. And then you have got this girl, Nicole, who was engaged to one of their colleagues for a very long time, and it was an arranged engagement, so she didn't want to be with him, but it was still there. And so these guys have had a thing for her for a very long time, but never really felt that they could do anything to act on it. And then as this book starts, which is pretty much as the previous book finishes off, they do decide one night to act on things, and we then have the entire book of following on from that. Now, this whole series is super high spice and super low angst, so you don't generally have any worry that anything bad is going to happen. Like in the others, like the characters do have things to work through, so they do have insecurities, and they do have reservations as to whether they are doing the right thing, but you're never kind of worried about, there's not going to be a massive third act breakup or anything like that, which is always kind of nice. And I had a good time reading this one. I would say it wasn't my favourite in the series, but it was very enjoyable. Very glad that I picked it up, and I can't remember if she is going to write any more in this series, but if she does, I would definitely pick that one up as well. So then, because I was apparently picking up the series that I was working my way through, I then read Haunted by the King of Death by Felicity Heaton. So this whole series is fated mates with like loads of different paranormal species in there. Again, this one is an MF romance, and this one is between a vampire and a phantom, and it is a second chance romance, which is actually slightly more unusual in a fated mates scenario. But we basically have a phantom who has gone out to seek revenge against this vampire for various reasons that do become apparent as the plot progresses. She has cursed him to start to turn towards being a phantom, and then sort of realised that actually she sort of fell for him along the way. So that is how we start out, with this very cursed vampire wanting to get revenge on this phantom who has wronged him because she wanted to get revenge on him in the first place, and everything that kind of happens along the way with other people who want to get revenge on both of them. I will say there were a couple of scenes in this one that were pretty distressing for me in terms of the particular topics that happened in the wider plot, not in the romance, but in like the wider world plot. So I would definitely like check if anyone's got any like content warnings and things like that, if there are topics that might be problematic. But the dynamic of the romance was quite cool. I definitely liked the second chance because oops, I made a massive mistake element of things. And yeah, again, not my favourite in the series, but certainly not my least favourite. So enjoyable. And then I read Mate by Ali Hazelwood. Now, this had the potential to go so wrong for me. I have really enjoyed every Ali Hazelwood book that I have read. I have read her feminist romances, I read Bride, and I was really looking forward to reading this one because I loved Bride. And I just thought she did paranormal romance so well. You can really tell that she is herself a paranormal romance fan. Like, we obsess about the same authors. It's amazing. And everyone that I know on Bookstagram who likes similar things to me was saying only good things about this. So the thought was there that this could be a really, really good book for me. And it was so good. Like, this is, I don't know, I've had this thing this year where I won't give books a 5-star rating. I've literally had only given one book a 5-star rating the entire year, which is a whole other conversation in itself. And I will do a video at some point about how I need to completely revamp how I rate my books. But this got my second 5-star rating of the year. No questions about it. It had to happen. So this very much follows on from events that happened in Bride. Officially, they're not in a series, but to get the most out of this, you absolutely have to have read Bride, in my opinion, because there is a lot of background. There is a lot of references to things that happen in that book, where there's some things that I wish I remembered a bit better. Absolutely, but that's the reader life, isn't it? So we have got in this one Serena, who appeared in the first book and is like the best friend from there, and then we have got, I think he's called Cohen, who also appears in the first book and is a werewolf alpha. And yeah, I mean, like, obviously this is a slight spoiler for the first book, but nothing in terms of the actual plot that happens, but you might be shocked to know they are mates. I don't know if the title gave it away. Or more specifically, he recognises her as his mate. And something that happens as a topic quite a lot is the fact that mates aren't always reciprocal. And just because one person is drawn towards someone else doesn't mean that person is always drawn towards them. I think that's a topic that is handled quite well. But there's this whole situation going on that basically there are reasons that he couldn't be in a relationship with her and is having to hold himself back from any potential interest. The way that this book is written is really cool because it is entirely from her point of view, but the start of every chapter has a line or a couple of lines that are his point of view, referencing things. They're all in third person, but it is about how he is feeling about the different things. And honestly, the way that the world that they were in, the characters themselves, the relationship development, how the different things in the relationships were handled, the people around them, everything. I just had the best time ever reading this book, and so glad that I picked it up, and it just felt right. And I love that. I love when that happens. You pick up a book and you're like, yes, this one is my book. Thank you very much. And yeah, so very, very happy that I did pick this one up. And then I read another 2025 release. This one has actually been sat on my shelves for a few months, and that is Along Came Amour by Alexis Daria. So this is the third and final book in the Primas of Power series. So we got Ava, who is the final cousin from the trio, and she is divorced. She was hurt quite badly in the divorce, and her family's reaction to it has really not helped matters with that, and she's very much struggling. And so she has the opportunity for a one-night stand with a very hot, very rich guy, and she takes that chance. So this is an MF contemporary romance, and it all sort of follows on from there. So it's supposed to be a one-night stand, but then she sort of finds herself meeting up with him occasionally and continuing things, but never anything in a relationship sense. And their paths cross. They find out that they have more connections than they previously realised. I really, really enjoyed reading this one. Like, it was so good. It was very different, obviously, to the previous book that I'd read, being contemporary. But I had such a good time reading it. And do you know, the only thing I could really find that made this not an instant favourite was the size of it. It's 490 pages for a contemporary romance. 490 pages. Like, I had read the length of a short contemporary romance and then was only halfway through. That was a bit weird to get my head around. And look, I get books can be good at any size and things like that, but honestly, I do think that 100 pages shorter, this would probably have been a favourite. I still really, really enjoyed it. I would still absolutely recommend it, but for me, that just would have made it that little bit better. But yeah, I just had a great time reading it. I generally find I'm so hit and miss with contemporary romance, but if I am in it, I just have the best time, and this one was one that I was definitely in. And then I finished another series. Who even was I last month? This is ridiculous, but it happened. I read Wicked All Night by Janine Frost, which is the last book in the Night Rebel trilogy, which also then finishes me off for the Night Huntress world. So, being the third book in the trilogy, we have got an established couple. I had read books 1 and 2 in October and absolutely loved both of them. So these are Ian and Veritas, who both appear in the other Night Huntress books in various different guises. And we have some cool crossovers in this series with vampires and magic. Having absolutely loved the first 2 books in this trilogy, I was very excited to pick this one up, and I did enjoy it, but nowhere near as much as I enjoyed the others. I think I'm sure I've said this at some point in videos before, but I really struggle sometimes with series endings. I like, the day-to-day life things. I like that there's a bit of drama, but there is like a plot, but you also get mostly the day-to-day life things. This very much had an end of series arc to it. It had a let's sum up everything that's happened in all the Night Huntress books theme to it. Let's make sure that every character who has played a part at some point comes in to play another part. Let's put them all together. Let's use this person's powers, then this person's powers, then this person's powers. And that's kind of fine. It's nice when you see like people pop up that you know from earlier in a series. That's one of the fun things of reading a series. But when every single person pops up in the book and then you look at them all together and you go, you're all just really overpowered at this point. This is now a bit ridiculous. It's I don't know, it's just not as fun as when you just get like those little hints of things and you carry on. This one does also have a lot of like gods and mythology and things, which is fine, and obviously in fantasy I have no problem with. It's just not really generally my vibe for paranormal. So I still had a good time reading it, but very much not as much of a fan as I was of the other 2. But that's fine. I would still say that I enjoyed the series as a whole. I still very much recommend Night Huntress as a whole. And that is another series that I can tick off my list. Okay, so then I read another book that I was slightly nervous about reading, but not for the same reasons as I was a bit nervous about reading Mate. And that was The Devil She Knows by Alexandria Bellafleur. Now, I had heard very mixed things about this book in the build-up to its release. When I say mixed things, that's probably being quite kind about some of the comments that I had heard. And I thought, do you know what? I'm just not going to buy this one. I just don't think with all the books I've got, all the series that I'm in the middle of, I just don't think I'm going to buy it. Anyway, then I found out that past me had already pre-ordered it. So it did arrive, and so I thought, do you know what? I will read it. It sounds like it should be exactly my type of thing, so we'll give it a go. So this one is FF Paranormal Romance. So it is sapphic and paranormal, which is normally my jam, we have to say. And this one is a human and a demon. And the human is having a terrible, terrible day. She has just proposed to her fiance in the middle of a restaurant and basically been laughed at. Be like, what? Why did you think we were going to stay together, let alone get married? So yeah, that everything's gone a bit wrong for her. And basically she's on her way home and this demon finds her and goes, hey, I'll fix all your problems if you give me your soul. That's kind of where we start out. And as you can probably guess, obviously, she does not get back with her ex-fiance. The demon is then our love interest in this. And so she just goes through and she tries to fix things in her life, basically. She redoes different things over and over again to try and make things right. The concept of it, right? The concept of this book, I really like. I think it has so much potential as an idea. I just really didn't like the execution of it. I don't know, there was just so much repetition, and like there's only so long that you can tolerate someone being clueless and continuing to be so, even like when they see the signs on the wall. The dynamic between the two of them was fun at times, but also a bit weird. Like, there were definitely points that I enjoyed this. I wouldn't say that I hated every moment of reading it, but there was never a point where I was like, oh, this is really good. I would say that, and this is something that someone had said to me before I went in, so I was aware, this does read very much like a contemporary romance with paranormal elements in it. So if you are reading it, expect it to read like a contemporary romance. Don't kind of go and think it's paranormal. I was kind of on the fence with like rating this and my overall feelings, but do you know what really, really annoyed me was the ending, because they had an epilogue, right? And there was the most obvious thing in the world that should have appeared in the epilogue of this book, with how it started, with how it all went through, with everything that happened. There was one really super obvious thing that should have happened in the epilogue, and then it didn't. And I was like, do you know what? This hasn't been my favourite book anyway. That has really annoyed me. So that was yeah, my little rant that I have about this book. It's fine. And do you know what? I'm going to pass this on to someone else who might enjoy it, and I'm going to enjoy that little bit of space on my shelves that I will save by this not being a keeper. And yeah, I didn't hate it, but I didn't really massively enjoy it either. Not one that I would particularly recommend. So there we go, lesson learned. And then I read another book that released this year and I had pre-ordered. So this was A Game of Vows and Vendettas by Ruby Rowe. This is a crossover novel between the Girl Game series and the Kingdom of Immortal Lovers series. So the two complete trilogies that she has. So we have got one character who appeared in each series together in this one. So this one is a sapphic fantasy romance, and this is this whole story is based around the wedding of the characters in the second Girl Games book. So it is a royal wedding going on. People have come from other places, and we have got the younger sibling princess with one of the vampire siblings from the Immortal Lovers series. So it is a real crossover, and basically we end up in a situation where we have got a vampire bodyguard and the princess that she's looking after. But what neither of their families know is that they might have, while they didn't know who the other one was, had a little bit of a hookup a little while ago. So there is already some tension there. I really, really enjoyed this book. Like, I wasn't necessarily expecting to. It just sounds weird because I pre-ordered it, right? But I thought, yeah, it sounds a bit of fun. But I really loved it. Like, for me, I enjoyed the Girl Games series so much more than the Kingdom of Mortal Lovers series, because I loved the mix of characters, the vibes of the stories, and I very much like the style of, you know, having a couple, focusing on them and then building the world around them kind of thing. And I just really enjoyed this book. I loved all the little mentions, all the little crossover points. I loved all the different interactions between the characters. It was just so much fun to read. And I loved the wedding. The wedding was just lovely, and there were some really cute little details in it that were proper nostalgia for that book, which is one of my favourites. So yeah, I just had a great time reading it. I did, because I pre-ordered it, also get a copy of A Game of Brats and Brides, which is like an extended epilogue for the book. I didn't count this one as a separate book read, but I did read it, and that was fun as well. So that one definitely improved my pre-order experience. And then, continuing my theme of finishing series, I read Only and Forever by Chloe Lisa. This one I picked up because it was my oldest owned and read on my shelves. So this officially took me into the territory of reading 2024 books as my oldest books, which is very nice. This is the 7th and final book in the Bergman Brothers series. So these are all contemporary romances set around this family where there are 7 siblings. This one is an MF romance, and it is finally the turn of Viggo. So he is the 5th of 7. I think he's older than Ollie. They're really close. Like they're the ones that are like a year apart, but they basically act like twins. I get confused. But anyway, he's certainly not the youngest. And he has been the one that has meddled in all of his siblings' relationships as they have got together, and has been the one that he knows best because he reads romance, so he knows how romances should work. He has the opportunity to meet and help out with someone that he had a massive crush on when he was back in college. She is the sister of his sister's best friend, although that wasn't like the case when he knew her before. And yeah, that is how they meet and get things going. She is an author, writing under a pen name, and she very much has writer's block. And he is working to open a bookstore, which is a big project that he has been chipping away at for ages and ages. And they just say that they'll help each other out. So he'll give her somewhere to stay while she needs somewhere to stay. He'll help her with her writer's block, and she'll help him with things that he needs help with in the bookshop. So I took a bit of a gap with this series before book 6, before I read that one, and I had been really loving it up to that point. There were just various reasons I didn't pick that one up straight away. And then when I eventually went back and read it, I did really, really enjoy it. So I wasn't really sure how I was going to be with this one, but I did enjoy it. It just didn't click as well as I had hoped it might. I think there were some really sweet moments in here. There were some really funny moments. There were some great highlights from other bits in the series. But as characters, like Viggo was almost a caricature of himself. It's like he did everything. And it is in a way that can only exist in fiction. Like, it is not possible to burn yourself out and do as many things as he does. Like, you just can't. Even if you were burning yourself out, you would not be able to do that much. And so there was a bit of an element of going, you're making him too perfect. So I think, yeah, I did very much still enjoy it. I do have very happy memories of reading most of the books in this series. It has been really good, so no regrets. I'm really glad that I have now finished the series. Just not my favourite, and I don't know, I'm mixed on whether I would actually reread any of them or not now. And then the final book that I read in November, which is the only one that I don't have a physical copy of, is Ice Queen Alpha by Lily X. So this is from the Leslie Hall's collection, which is a collection of like sapphic winter holiday novellas. This was the first one that I had tried. This is about an absolute tyrant of a boss and her personal assistant who gets really fed up with having to work to keep everyone motivated while her boss is just busy putting them down the whole time. And so she gives up and she quits. And then her boss goes to track her down. And that is where things go. This one falls in the category of not for me, but for the right people. I think it's really good. So the concept of the novella was great fun. The bit I struggled with is that it is an Omegaverse book. And I have read a couple of books before that are like, I guess, Omegaverse light. But this was full on in. And what I now know is that is not for me. So that's fine. I have learnt that. I can take that into my reading and I can use that to inform what I read later. I think if it wasn't for that element, this is definitely a book that I could have really enjoyed, and I absolutely think that if Sapphic Omegaverse is your thing, then it is a really, really good winter novella to read. So yeah, no hard feelings on that one. So there you go. That was the 9 books that I read in November. An interesting mix of feelings, but overall just being in a space where I had favourite books again was so good, and it just set me up really well for how my reading is now going in December. Let me know if you've got any thoughts on any of the books that I read, if there's anything that you are now intrigued about, and let me know if you had any favourite books that you read in November. It would be great to learn about those as well. And I will see you soon. Bye!